Last night, you fell asleep. You have no idea how. You were lying there, replaying the day or worrying about tomorrow, and at some point the lights inside you went out, and you did not catch the moment it happened. You never do. Think about how strange that is. You have fallen asleep thousands of times. Every single night of your life, without exception. It is one of the most familiar things your body knows how to do. And you have never once been awake to witness the moment it actually happens. How is that even possible? You can remember sitting down. You can remember turning off the light. You might remember one last thought, some drifting half-image behind your eyes. And then nothing. A gap. A clean cut in the reel of your life that opens every 24 hours and somehow leaves no edge, no seam, no trace of the crossing itself. You already know this feeling, even if you've never named it. You're reading something in bed or watching something on your phone. The last thing you remember is a sentence or a scene. And then suddenly it's morning, the screen is dark, and the phone is lying on the floor or resting on your chest. Those final minutes are simply gone. You were there for them. You just can't find them anywhere. The real answer to why is far stranger than just being tired. Let's start with what falling asleep even is. You probably imagine it as a switch. Awake, and then, with a single click, asleep. One state, then the other, a clean line drawn between them. That picture feels completely obvious. It is also almost entirely wrong. Your brain does not switch off. It powers down in pieces. A neuroscientist named Thomas Anderlin has spent years studying the exact moment the brain crosses from waking into sleep. And what his work reveals is that there is no single moment at all. Individual neurons begin to fall asleep on their own, at slightly different times, like windows going dark across a city one by one instead of a single master switch being thrown. Part of your brain can already be drifting while another part is still wide awake. For a stretch of time, you are not asleep and you are not awake. You are scattered across the border in fragments, with no single unified version of you standing at the line to watch yourself step over it. So if part of you is still awake as you drift off, why can't that part hold on to anything? This is where it gets stranger. Because the problem isn't only that your brain shuts down slowly. The problem is that the one part of you responsible for recording memories clocks out early, long before the rest of you does. Deep inside your brain sits a small, curved structure called the hippocampus. You can think of it as the scribe of your mind. Almost every memory you can consciously call up, what you ate this morning, where you left your keys, the face of someone you met yesterday, had to pass through the hippocampus to be written down. When the hippocampus is damaged, people lose the ability to form new memories at all. They can live a moment completely, and then have it disappear the instant it ends, like writing traced onto water. And as you fall asleep, the hippocampus quietly stops writing. Here is one of the most beautiful experiments ever done on this. A Harvard sleep researcher named Robert Stickgold asked people to play the video game Tetris for hours, then observed them as they drifted off to sleep. Again and again, right at the edge of sleep, they reported the same thing. They saw Tetris blocks falling behind their closed eyes, tilting, dropping, fitting together. Their minds were clearly still active, still chewing on the day. Something was genuinely happening in there. But then Stickgold did something clever. He ran the same experiment on people with severe amnesia. People whose hippocampus was so damaged that they could not remember having played Tetris at all. They couldn't recall the game. They couldn't recall the researchers, or even that they had been in the lab before. And yet, as they slipped toward sleep, they too saw the falling blocks. Sit with what that means for a second. The images were being produced with no memory attached to them at all. The experience was running, but nothing was being saved. The mind was awake enough to conjure up the day, but the scribe had already set down the pen. That is, in miniature, exactly what happens to you every single night. As you drift off, your brain stays active. It keeps generating thoughts, images, loose fragments of the hours behind you. You are experiencing something in there. You are simply not recording any of it. You are awake enough to be there. You are not awake enough to remember being there. Now you can see why the moment of falling asleep is fundamentally unrememberable. It isn't that nothing happens. It's that the one machine capable of turning what happened into what I remember has already gone dark. The experience keeps running. The memory maker is off. And you only ever find out about the parts of your life that the memory maker bothered to keep. So what is it actually like, that place you travel to every night and can never describe? We have a few clues, and they are quietly eerie. If you wake someone gently during the first minutes of sleep, something odd happens. They will often insist they were never asleep at all. They'll swear they were just lying there, awake, resting their eyes, even though their brain waves clearly show they had already crossed over. Researchers call this sleep state misperception, and it reveals something unsettling. Your sense of having been awake is not the same thing as having actually been awake. Your brain can already be asleep while the story you tell yourself still reads, "I was here the whole time." This is why you can lie in bed through what feels like 5 restless minutes, and then glance at the clock to find that 40 have vanished. That missing time wasn't empty. You were simply somewhere your memory was not allowed to follow. But here's the part almost nobody expects. That strange threshold between waking and sleep, the very place your memory abandons you, may be one of the most valuable mental states you have. A researcher in Paris named Delphine Oudiette became fascinated by an old habit of the inventor Thomas Edison. Edison, the story goes, would fall asleep in a chair holding a metal ball in his hand. As he drifted off, his muscles would slowly relax, his fingers would open, and the ball would drop and clatter to the floor, jolting him awake. He was convinced that in that brief twilight, mind loosened, but not yet gone, his best ideas would rise to the surface. For a long time, this was treated as a charming legend. Oudiette decided to actually test it. She brought people into her lab, gave them a hard problem with a hidden shortcut buried inside it, and let them drift to the very edge of sleep before nudging them back awake. The result was striking. People who dipped briefly into that first stage of sleep and then returned were far more likely to suddenly see the hidden rule than people who had stayed fully awake the whole time. There appears to be a creative sweet spot right at the doorway of sleep, a place where the mind makes connections it cannot quite reach anywhere else. And that reframes the entire thing. The reason you can't pin down the moment you fall asleep isn't that it's a wall slamming shut behind you. It's that it isn't a wall at all. It's a doorway, a wide, blurry, shifting threshold that you pass through gradually, where your sense of self loosens, where logic goes soft, where the scribe lays down the pen, and the mind is briefly free to wander somewhere it never goes by daylight. You can't remember the crossing because the crossing isn't a line. It's a whole country, and you only ever pass through it as a tourist with no camera. So why would your brain be built this way? Why leave you blind to something you do every day of your life? The honest answer is that your brain has no reason to record it. Memory is expensive. Laying down a lasting memory takes energy, takes proteins, takes real biological work, and your brain is ruthless about what earns that cost. There is no survival advantage in remembering the precise instant you lost consciousness in a safe, dark room. So evolution never bothered to build the feature. The transition isn't hidden from you because it's secret. It's hidden from you because, to your brain, it simply wasn't worth saving. You are not meant to witness your own departure. You are only meant to wake up on the other side. Think about what that quietly means for your life. Every night, you do this. You lie down. You let go. And somewhere in the dark, without your permission and without your awareness, you gradually dissolve. The version of you that plans and worries and narrates the day in a steady inner voice, that voice goes silent. You stop being a continuous person and become, for a while, just a brain humming softly in the dark, generating images that no one will keep. And then, hours later, you reassemble. You wake. The narrator clicks back on mid-sentence as though it had never paused, and you step straight back into your life with no sense that you were ever gone. There's no jolt of return, no memory of the absence. The seam is invisible every single morning, which is the exact reason you never notice the most reliable disappearance of your entire existence. You have vanished from your own story thousands of times. You will never remember a single one of them. We spend so much effort trying to hold on. We photograph our meals and record our days and fight, some nights, to stay awake just a little longer, as if we might finally catch ourselves in the act of slipping under. But you cannot watch yourself fall asleep, for the same reason you cannot watch your own eyes move in a mirror or catch the exact word on which you stopped listening to someone. The watcher and the watched are the same thing, and one of them always has to go quiet first. So tonight, you will lie down again. Your neurons will begin to dim, one by one, like lights going out across a darkening city. The scribe will set down the pen. The images of your day will rise up behind your eyes, vivid and real and completely unsaved. You will drift through that wide, strange doorway where your best ideas sometimes hide. And at some point, a point you will never once locate, no matter how closely you try to pay attention, you will be gone. Tonight, you will fall asleep. And once again, you will have no idea how.